Hello, in this lecture I want to cover some king and pawn endgames. We've covered some of the basics, and now I just want to go over some examples and look at the outcome. And my first recommendation is to really master these king and pawn endgames. I recommend you go to this website on Shredder right here. I'll try to post this as a link in the information, but here it is. And go to their setup feature and set up different positions and try to evaluate it without looking at Shredder's analysis, because it will tell you what move and if it leads to win, draw, or loss. What you want to do is be able to analyze it without Shredder so you can really understand these positions, and if you're having trouble understanding if a position wins or loses, then you can use it. But it's a good tool to use to learn the king and pawn endgames, and you want to start with these and really get these down before you move on to other endgames. And believe it or not, I'm going to say this is white to move and win, and then we're going to turn around and say black to move, and if black moves first, it's actually a draw. So what are the basics? Well, for my lecture, I told you that these were the three critical squares, and if the white king could get in one of these, then white would win. So white to move. So believe it or not, you got to ask yourself, well, maybe, what we want to do is sort of count. If white's the move, you could say, well, its first move would move here, and then black was the move, it would first move to here, because it wants to head towards these three squares. And if black moves there, then that means sort of we'll never get there. But then if white moves to this square, then we're going to be able to make it to this square, to C5, to C6. So that's going to be a win for us. So actually moving E3, and then black moves to F7, and then we could actually move here, and then we'll clearly get to D6. We could actually even move to D5 and 1. So that's one way to get there. And then actually, most people wouldn't recognize, but we sometimes, in some positions, you can't really go what I call this way around the pawn, because the king is coming from this way. Sometimes if you sort of go around, you can win too. So does that one work? So if we go to D3, this king comes here, and then we come up. The king comes here, and we come up here, and we're eventually going to get to this square and win. So let me just show you that one. So we're going to, oops, it's black to move. So what we're going to do, now what is probably the best move for black in this position, I'm going to say is moving to here. So where is white to move? Well, what should we do? Well, there's actually only one move that wins. Anything else pretty much is a draw. And we want to take the opposition, because that's how we make headway into the position. So white takes the opposition, and now black must give way. Let's say by coming to this side, and then we just go here. Nothing better for black to do than to go here. We come here. And now whatever happens, it's a clear win. Okay, so let's back all the way up and say, what would happen if this was black to move? Well, if it's black to move, then it's a draw. So black is going to move here. Then what is white's best chance? Well, actually, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, if we try to go this way or go around, the result is going to be the same. But let's see. So we move up. Oh, and now we're never going to be able to move up. And then we know this is a draw. So let's try to go around. I'm just thinking, what is the best move for black? Because white actually has the opposition here. And believe it or not, there's only one move that draws. Any other move loses. It's going to be this move here. Now it doesn't matter what move white makes. I mean, white doesn't want to move around here because the king comes in and snatches the pawn, so pawn up. And then the black king is just going to move straight back, and when white comes up, black will get the opposition, and then this is a draw. We already know this from a previous example. So even though it's a draw, black can go wrong, and I had to stop and think about it just to make sure to get the right move. I think we have time for one more example, so let me set up one more example. Okay, here's another example. I mean, when you look at it, you're not too sure. All that you know is that it's a race. Who can get over to the pawn quickest? And once again, the three critical squares are these three squares. So who can black prevent white from getting to these three squares? And it's white to move. So white to move, obviously, white is going to move the king up. Black's going to head down. We don't know the quickest way across the board, is along the diagonal for the king, so that's one of the reasons for moving along the diagonal. And then white's next move, actually, white's going to move diagonally and take the opposition. And I would say, at this point, you may think that actually this is one of the reasons why right here, if you're looking at the opposition, distant opposition, you would actually know that white wins right now without having to know any other factors. Because black's going to move down, white's going to move up, and now white has the opposition. Black can't make its way down anymore, can only go sideways, and the white king's just going to go sideways. And white has reached one of the critical squares, and white is definitely going to win this game. Well, that just about does it for the king and pawn endgames. I'm going to encourage you to go to that Shredder website or to set up different positions on your chess computer and to play through them until you're very familiar with these. And then my next lecture, I'm going to start covering the basics of rook and pawn endgames, where we're going to actually add a rook from white and black to the mix.